In this video, we will be talking about LiCunxin. LiCunxin has an autobiography about himself called Mao's Last Dancer, and that is where I got most of my information from. LiCunxin has 6 brothers. He was born in Qingdao, Shandong from China, and he was born on January 26, 1961. Their house wasn't big, but he had to live with 20 people in one house. One of his younger brothers, at a young age, was hit in the head by a chair thrown by his other brothers. He had to be sent to the hospital, was considered too young to be able to have any medical things done to him. His mother was so sad and actually left him under the snowy mountains of Northern Hill. The good thing was that their brother was able to grow up to be a very healthy man. Now we have LiCunxin. When LiCunxin was younger, he was accidentally wrapped in lots of blankets and put under a very hot area. This caused his arm to swell up a lot. He was sent to the doctor and given herbal medicine, which he had to take, but it was very, very painful to put on. Ow! It was so painful, but luckily later on it became less painful. After a few days or weeks, he was perfectly fine again. It just left a big scar. Now it was time for LiCunxin to start attending school. One day at school, his teacher came and talked about going to Madame Mao's company to dance ballet and show in Chairman Mao's revolution, and they had to select children. In the beginning, they had to sing "We Love Chairman Mao," 万岁毛主席, 万岁毛主席, which means "Long live Chairman Mao, long live Chairman Mao." Representatives from different cities in China came to look at the students, and they would choose children who looked to be good to dance ballet, and LiCunxin was chosen there by the person from Beijing. The chosen people had to do tests which would measure proportions and test your flexibility, and those were very painful. LiCunxin and another girl from his grade passed to the next level. They were accepted to the first auditions and started dancing ballet, which is ballet. The next few auditions were very hard and tiring, and they tested flexibility, which was so painful, but he had to keep on pushing. They went from county, city to provincial. They were tested on things like response to music, understanding of Mao's ideas, and their family background check was checked to make sure their family was fitted the requirements to become a ballet dancer. Finally, LiCunxin was chosen to be Madame Mao's dance academy and be a student there. He had to leave home, and it was 7 years of no freedom and constantly dancing. So LiCunxin was able to climb to the top of his class, and lucky for him, his teacher also liked him and motivated him a lot. Eventually, there was an opportunity to go to Ben Stevenson's Houston Ballet Company. This exchange would take 6 weeks, and LiCunxin was lucky enough to be able to go. After staying in America for some time, LiCunxin realized that America wasn't as bad as China made it seem like. It was just the way China taught it, and it was actually China that wasn't as good. The idea was caused by the way China taught Chinese students about America, and LiCunxin wanted to change this. Sadly, around this time it was time for him to go back to China, but he really wanted to come back, and when he asked the government, they said no. LiCunxin was lucky enough to eventually be able to get the visa to be able to travel back to America. Around this time, LiCunxin fell in love with Elizabeth Mackey, and they got married. They got married that quickly just so that LiCunxin was able to stay in America for longer. China didn't like that, so they detained him in hopes of letting him come back. And LiCunxin said no, and they were like, okay, but there's no more citizen for you, and you can't return back to China ever. LiCunxin continued to stay in China, and sadly, he got a divorce with Elizabeth Mackey, but he was luckily promoted to principal dancer. Finally, after 6 years of not seeing his family, he was able to reunite with them after his performance of Nutcracker. Around this time, LiCunxin met Mary McKendry, and they fell in love after dancing with each other. They got married and had 3 children with each other. One was 2 girls and 1 boy, and they moved to Australia later. They did a ballet dance of Romeo and Juliet as their final goodbye dance, and that was the end. Now, here are some questions that I will answer to kind of go over and have a summary of this whole video. So the first question is, during the late 70s and 80s, what were American students taught about China? Well, in the 1950s and 60s, because of Korean War and many other wars, Chinese weren't treated the best during that time, but after around like in the 70s and 80s, the relationship improved a lot. This, what were Chinese students taught about America during that time? Chinese students were actually taught that America was really corrupt and wasn't the best place to go to, and China was a lot better. And that was just like the communism of China. That might also be why LiCunxin thought was like, oh wow, America's so amazing actually. Question 2 is, what was traveling like, especially for overseas people? So usually it was with airplanes, and at the time there wasn't as much security, but after a few events, more security was set up. The third question is, was discrimination bad for those who came from China to America? During that time, like before, it wasn't as bad, but there was still some hate towards Asians because of World War II, and also there was some anti-Asian discrimination. The fourth question was, what was America like during that time? So depending on where you were in the country, it would be very different or very similar from today, and most of the houses actually looked the same. They were just neighborhoods and everything all around. There were a lot of new universities and houses built during that time, so they would have been thought as modern and very cool. Last question I had for my teacher was, what was the relationship between America and China like during that time? During that time, the relationship improved a lot between the two countries, especially with like Nixon going to China and negotiating, and just overall the war stopping and having more negotiations was really helpful to improve the relationship. So what did LiCunxin really do? Well, I personally think that while he didn't really make a super big impact, he opened the world for China to come to America and just be able to dance and have like transportation. I think that also by letting him come from China to America to study ballet, he was able to open a new world for more Chinese people to come to America and just have a better relationship.